Welcome to the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1 Hank FM. Live from Boo Rays in New Orleans and Hudson Oaks, the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. And now, here's the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist.
And we welcome you to Boo Rays of New Orleans here in Hudson Oaks for the Aledo Coaches Show podcast. Again, I'm Kevin Lonnquist. Boo Rays of New Orleans celebrating 20 years with 3 locations in the Westoplex. Of course, we always want to recognize our 2 presenting sponsors, H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. These podcasts would not be possible without their support. Every other week rotation with hardball continues. We're back with the softball, and the Lady Cats not only can't be beat, they can't be scored upon so far in this recent stretch of ball. The last time we talked to Coach Myers that they had been on this great run. Now they haven't even given up a run here, so I guess that's what the podcast luck has been bringing your team. 18-3 overall, 7-0 in District 5-5A. That's now a 49-game district winning streak. Aledo has not surrendered a run in its last 19 innings. Now that inning number might sound a little bit short, but because the Lady Cats have been dominating these games so quickly out of hand, they've been shortened by the run rule, and so they get their work done pretty quickly, and then they're off for the rest of the night is the way these games have been going. Yes. For the Lady Cats this week, they will have their bye on Tuesday. Then they're at Saginaw Chisholm Trail on Friday. Maybe. That kind of depends on the weather forecast, which is not looking very good right now. We have a 2-segment podcast for you. And again, our head coach and now our podcast veteran, Heather Myers, joins us in the first segment. Second segment, we will be joined by a couple of members, a couple of seniors from this team. Senior right fielder Addie Perry, and then senior catcher Austin Marriage. A few of these Lady Cats are with us tonight, including senior Marina Tavares, along with Taylor McKean and Gracie Jones. Want to thank all these ladies for joining us. Again, we're going to have Austin and Addie joining us here in just a few moments. All right, Coach, let's just talk about where things are at right now. Okay. It's one thing to dominate, but it's this thing has kind of turned to playing a standard here since you all have scored 54 runs in these last 4 games. What exactly have you been seeing with this group here these last couple of weeks since we spoke to each other last?
Just continued growth and discipline at the plate. We talk about it all the time. You know, it doesn't matter who we're playing. We're not going to take anybody for granted. So we're going to go up to the plate with an approach. You know, we know what we're looking for. First couple of pitches, you know, if we have a 3-1 count, we have an approach. If we have a 2-0 count, we have an approach. Obviously, 0-2 count, we're trying to expand a little and foul something off if we have to. But sorry, I need a drink of water.
That's okay. I mean, but so in terms of that, though, is it just kind of making a pitcher work? I mean, one thing is that you really want to get her to exhaust everything,
yep.
show everything that she's got, yep. and then kind of work some deep counts there in order to kind of, if you will, wear her out, and then you can kind of sit on something that you like. I would suppose there's no difference between the philosophy with baseball and softball.
No, you said make a pitcher work. Mm-hmm. I think that term work is the one thing that I say to every single hitter, every at-bat, like, make them work. Like, you've either got to work or we're going to make the pitcher work. So, I mean, that's our goal, is to make the pitcher pitch as many pitches as possible, get them tired quickly. We'll knock them off the mound eventually.
Okay. I've heard some coaches talk about this where they, and this is baseball primarily, but, again, it kind of transitions over into softball to some extent, too, I would think, that some coaches want their players to see at least 3 pitches. Doesn't matter where they are in the game, doesn't matter where they are in the order in terms of just, but they want to have them take at least 3, obviously, unless there's one fat one that's coming right in. But in terms of just seeing that, what is your approach saying? Is it a count of saying we need to see at least 3, or how do you look at that way with your lineup?
Well, I don't give them a number of pitches to see specifically, but we do talk about quality at bats all the time. So if they go 0-2 in a count, they're looking to foul off at least 3 or more pitches, or to get a base hit on that third pitch, or whatever it is, to work for a quality at bat. So I don't necessarily say, hey, you need to see 3 pitches, but we're constantly trying to work for a quality at bat, however that looks. Thank you. So 4 balls in a row, you know, that is a quality at bat. You know, you work to walk. Or if you foul off 3 or more pitches, that's quality at bat. So yeah, I don't give them a specific count, but they're working. They know what a quality at bat is, and that's what they're working for.
And And discipline at the plate, eye discipline, too, in terms of identifying pitches and location of where it is in the strike zone.
Yep.
Is there anything that you and your coaching staff kind of focuses in on? And, they always say hit the ball where it's pitched, but in terms of just kind of location, what's been kind of your philosophy behind that?
So typically, I'll try to know a pitcher and where the ball breaks in the box before we face them. Sometimes I don't know that, so after the first inning, unfortunately, for the first 3 hitters, they might not know that. So we go in after an at-bat and say, okay, the ball's rising early, so scoot back in the box to see it for a ball, or get in the front and hit it before it rises, or drop ball. It just depends. So we make adjustments according to where the ball breaks. The last game, the girl had a great screwball. It was breaking away from us because she was a lefty pitcher, and so we told them to toe the line to catch it before it broke to where they couldn't hit it. So we do have all these adjustments that we're trying to give them. And again, they're very coachable. So they usually, I would say 98% of the time, they're going to be doing exactly what we ask. And they're going to see a lot of production from that.
You bring up an interesting point, too, about left-handed pitchers. You don't see a lot of them in softball. I mean, they're there, but you don't see a lot of them, though. So, and of course, the ball is going to come off a little bit differently from that hand. So what's kind of the approach of when you are dealing with a left-hander?
We don't look at it any different. So there's, we don't want to say, okay, we're going to change everything about what we do just because they're a lefty pitcher. Their swing shouldn't change. Their stride shouldn't change. We may make an adjustment as where we're standing in the box, but other than that, they're attacking just like they're a righty.
Okay, so let's talk to you about your pitcher here in terms of just what you've seen from her, some of the things that's been working for her so far this year.
Well, everything. So Taylor is a veteran on varsity at this point. She's the one that pitched in the state semifinals last year. I believe it was 14 Ks. I mean, just phenomenal pitcher. But she's got really good rise ball, really good screwball, fantastic curveball. I like the curveball. She will admit that. Great changeup. I mean, she's hard to hit, and she's got the velocity to go with it. So it's not just, speed or spin. She's both. She's got speed with spin.
And I would think, Taylor, I know you probably can't hear me, or you can't answer this, but I'm going to ask out loud to Coach Myers here and yourself about just changing speeds and then changing the eyes of a batter here. How important is that for a pitcher? I'll ask. I would imagine that's kind of a thumbs up, right? Okay, I got the thumbs up from her. But for your perspective, how do you see that?
You have to change planes. You can't stay on the same plane. I love the curveball, but she also has a great drop ball that we can utilize to change that plane, or obviously her rise ball is phenomenal, but you got to keep the hitters off balance. Sometimes, hitters have holes in their swings and we can attack that way. And then you have hitters who don't have holes. So you have to keep them off balance. And that's by changing planes and off-speed stuff. So.
How many pitches do you want her to go? Do you keep her on a pitch count in any game? I mean, obviously we haven't seen it here lately, but having said that, in terms of just in the course of a season, maybe in the tournaments, or maybe even I'm not sure. Taylor, did you pitch against Midway a couple weeks ago? Okay, so in that game, did you? How many pitches did you let her go? And that's kind of a question when you get it. How far do you want to let her go? And of course, there's also the difference too of throwing 100 pitches. I'm just using an arbitrary number, pretty easy, and then there's a difference of throwing 100 pitches when you've got runners on base constantly, and there's a lot of stress on that arm too. So what's kind of your philosophy in terms of how you use her, when to take her out, when to bring her back, or that sort of thing?
I really don't focus on pitch count a lot. I will look at it. I do keep pitches. I track it every single inning and write it on the sheet that I'm calling pitches on. So once she gets around 100, which is not very often, that's when I'm talking to her a lot more. I'm going to talk to her every inning, but I'm asking her, how are you feeling? How's your arm? And she's usually, always like, I'm great. But 100 is usually where I'm like, okay. I don't want her to go a whole lot more than 7 innings if possible, because, she is our ace. So we need to keep her healthy. What was the other part of the question?
I was just going to say, in terms of you make up a great point, and just in terms of her philosophy, what's the variance in terms of just her fastball and then maybe her off-speed pitches?
What do you mean, like speed? Like what is the actual difference?
Are you over 70 on your fastball? 60?
She sits about 63 to 65.
Okay.
And then her off-speed is, I would say, 46, 47. something like that.
All right, and it's all about the grip too, in terms of how you hold and when to release it and that sort of thing. Okay, so let's talk about offensively here in terms of just looking at this team. I mean, I saw, and I was preparing for this, several players well over 500 this year.
Yeah.
We talk about, and we were talking about this just a few moments ago about having a plan. But is it a case where they do a lot of film, they do a lot of self-scouting, they do a lot of film work? What's kind of the approach in terms of just getting an offensive plan together, game in and game out?
So we really try to keep it simple. I don't want to overwhelm them with a lot of different things. Like we tell them what the pitcher throws, but they have a zone. They know to look for what the umpire's calling zone-wise, and they know what their hitting zone is, and so they're looking for that specifically. So they're going to the plate with it's yes until it's no approach. So I think that really helps us, honestly.
All right, so here are some of the batting averages here that I'm going to throw out at you. Tavera 600, Mark 660. These are district averages. Mark's at 667, Heath at 500, Perry at 409, McKean at 462, Pollock at 450, Meyer at 438. Let's see, how else do we have here? But it's one thing to have a batting average too, but it's also the on-base percentage too that is so important. And when I see a lot of these numbers here that are in the ridiculous numbers of 680, 667, 600, 519, 476, I could keep going on this. But because if you hear all these numbers, it's going to make your head spin. But that's what your offense does. You've got to get on base, and that goes back to the things that we talked about as making a pitcher work. Getting her out of the game, drawing walks, and then it kind of it becomes like a merry-go-round, if you will.
So it's funny that you brought up the on-base percentage. I sent you that on purpose because I look at that before I look at average, and I tell them that all the time. So if they strike out, that's one thing. We talk about strikeouts to walk ratio also, which is something that we are currently working on flipping. But anyway, I look at the on-base percentage because if you're on base, you can score. If you're not on base, you can't score. So it doesn't matter if you're batting 500, if your on-base percentage is, usually those two are going to parallel. There's not going to be a lot of difference there, but I look at that first. So I don't want them to stress out if they're so worried if they went 0 for 3 in a game, but they earned a walk. You know what I mean? Like, so to not be so focused on the batting average, what are you doing to get on base? To score a run. That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's going to be important here is in order to make sure that, again, I talked about the merry-go-round, but it's also about just, even if you all play little ball, do you play much little ball, or do you?
We do.
Okay.
We do.
How much is it, and how much do you hit and run, do you think? Or can you really, because you have to stay anchored at the base? Or
You're asking me to give away my secrets. We bring in the small ball every game, if possible, because then it opens up for a lot of other things. Whenever it helps us with getting runners advanced on bases. So if we're showing bunts and stuff like that, that's moving defenders out of the way so we can take a bag, or moving the runners with an actual bunt. So, the small ball is what's going to open up for the big game anyway. So that's why we incorporate it.
First of all, I also have a house cleaning item here because I misidentified the wrong Gracie. Gracie Heath
Yes.
is with us. Sorry about that, Gracie Heath, about that. So thank you for being here with us, okay? Gracie Jones is the one who's not with us, so I beg your pardon on that. Okay. A lot of coaches like to break their seasons into 3 segments here. It's non-district, it's district, and then it's postseason. If you do that, what do you emphasize in each of those periods?
I don't really segment it off. We know where we're at, obviously, but I don't want them to take it more than a game at a time, more than a pitch at a time, because anybody can win or lose on any given day. So we try not to plan like super far in advance. So we want to take it one pitch at a time. So it doesn't matter where we're at. We're still just working for the next game.
Okay, so let's also talk about the schedule, because with District 5-5A, you're going to get 2 byes in this. You've already had your first one. You get your second one this coming Tuesday. And so I think you have a fun thing planned for this coming Tuesday. But generally speaking, when a coach handles a bye, what's kind of the way you want to treat that in terms of that? You can tell everybody what you're doing here. Or maybe not. And the way they're signaling to us, they may not want to know about that. But at the same time, generally speaking, you can talk about what you all have planned tomorrow if they're okay with that. But generally speaking, how you handle a bye and what's your philosophy when you do have a bye, if you're only going to have one game in a week.
Well, Sometimes I want to schedule a game, a harder game, so that we can be better prepared for playoffs, which is something that we did. It just got rescheduled, like with Midway. But tomorrow, we're going to be playing a game. I haven't decided if it's kickball or backward softball, but this is something that we typically do, even going into the first round of playoffs, the practice before. We usually play a game just to try to lessen the nerves, because it is stressful. And at the end of the day, this is a game. And somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. So we try to keep it light. I mean, we work hard all the time. They put in 150% effort at every practice, because they know that's where they get better. They know that's where they earn playing time. So it's nice to just kind of like relax. And honestly, they asked for it. I probably wouldn't have even thought about it, but they asked for it the other day, and I was like, you know what? That's a good idea.
And that's one thing, too, for a coach, is you kind of have to know your team of when to push and when to ease off a little bit. That's kind of like just knowing, especially how the season is going, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that's also, too, a way to keep them mentally sharp, too.
I agree. And again, it's a game. Let's go have fun. It's team bonding. It's good all the way around.
Other than that, it could be the other way, too, like the beatings will continue until morale improves or something like that. And so, okay, so as we get toward the end of the season, and, of course, the Lady Cats on the verge of clinching a playoff spot. If certain things fall this week, maybe, but for sure next week is when they would probably clinch their other playoff berth. Again, of course, they're going for bigger stakes than just getting into the postseason. But we're also getting into the season, part of the season rather, where are you starting to look at what's going on in other districts for the postseason? Are you a scoreboard watcher? Or do you not do that until you actually officially clinch your playoff berth? Or do you just kind of have to cheat and say, how's that district going on over there? Because you know you're going to be a 5A Division I team with the new playoff format. But so how do you kind of approach it as you're starting to look around and see how things are going in the other districts?
Well, I definitely have been looking at that for actually a couple of weeks now. So even before we even started the second round, I was figuring out like what the sizes of schools were, who we could possibly be seeing for second, third round. So if things play out the way that they are right now, if nothing changes, then I know who will play first round and more than likely who will have second round.
All right.
But I mean, I'm constantly looking at Game Changer, looking at scores, who we've played compared to who they're playing, all the kinds of things to try to figure out certain. I mean, and at the end of the day, it's somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose, you know, like I said earlier. So we try not to stress about it, but I do like to know.
Yeah, we're far enough into the season so that you can kind of pretty get a sense as to how these district races are shaping up and who's really going to be in contention and who is not. So you might as well start thinking along the lines of, you know, and we'll talk about this as we get closer to the postseason, but a lot of teams have liked to come at you with the one gamer, and that's really a pain in the tail, I'm sure that everyone, but it's something but that's also a sign of respect too, because they're like, okay, we know we like our chances of beating Aledo in a 3-game series, or best 2 out of 3, are not that great, so we got to take our shot at the one gamer. But again, we'll talk about that in a couple weeks when that comes down the line. But again, Coach, always appreciate your being here with us, and
of course.
Good luck this week. And enjoy the what I would say the kickball or backwards softball event as to what you all might be doing here on this. But thanks for doing this, and we'll see you all in a couple weeks, okay? Okay, we want to remind you that the podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and Nye Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. We're also brought to you by Hiley Mazda. Head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30. Exit Las Vegas Trail and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. Don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family owned and operated for more than 30 years. Stick around. Second segment of the podcast coming up. We're going to be joined by senior right fielder Addie Perry and senior catcher Austin Marriage. Back after this timeout. Welcome back to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast. I'm Kevin Lonnquist here at Blu-rays of New Orleans in Hudson Oaks. Time now for our second segment, but before we begin that, let's have a couple of Aledo notables for you. Chad Berry's baseball team at 14-5 and 4-0 in District 5-5A. They have a home-and-home series with Keller Fossil Ridge this week. Tuesday's game at Fossil Ridge, Friday's game at home, maybe, and then they have a non-district game Saturday at Birdville, maybe, because of the weather conditions that are forecasted for the end of the week. Last week, the Bearcats swept Saginaw Chisholm Trail, lost a good game to Flower Mound Marcus on Saturday. I think it was 5-4, but again, really solid season going on by the Bearcats as they continue their quest for the 5-5A title. And then the District 5-5A track meet is Wednesday and Thursday over at Saginaw High School. The Aledo boys will be going for another district championship. The girls will be in contention for their own district championship. And then Aledo will host the area track meet on April the 10th. Time now to be bringing in a couple players. These are the two that drew the short straws that'll join us here this evening between senior right fielder Addie Perry and senior catcher Austin Marriage. Thank you, ladies, for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about this season so far. What's been going well? Again, we talked about the fact that this team is off to a tremendous start at 18-3. Just overall feel as to how this season is going. I'll start with you on this, Addie.
Absolutely. I think we are off to such a great start, obviously, with being 18-3 or whatever that number was. We win a lot of games. I think we have such a good team this year, like coming back from our run from state last year. I think just building off of that and making another run this year, I think we have good team chemistry and a lot of good work ethic, so I think we can make it back there this year again.
Okay, and then Austin, how have you seen things?
You notice that in games the energy is the exact same as you find in practice, so that's huge for us. You'll walk into the dugout and you'll see we're hype. We go to practice, we're having the exact same amount of fun, and that's huge, and that carries over every single game, and that leads to our success, I feel.
Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about the off-season from last year. I mean, you guys played a heck of a game against Harlingen South, lost a heartbreaker 1-0, but you had an outstanding season, 35-4 record. So what was the off-season like, though, the drive about, okay, as great as that was to get down to Austin and play in that game, there's that determination to return. I want to ask what that off-season was like. Was work, you know, you guys play summer ball, that sort of thing, but just when you all got back together, because your season ended in June, and then when you all got back together in school in August, that's when all the work started to pay off. I want to start with you, Austin, in terms of just the messaging and just the talk about, you know, trying to get back to Austin this year.
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously, I think our emotions over that game were all pretty similar across the team. It hurt to fall short at that point. We had all worked so hard, and we had been playing ball well into our summer, and it was painful to go out like that. But I think it's a consensus among the entire team that we don't want to feel like that again. So every practice, every game we go out and we're thinking we can't get to that point again and fall short. So it's a different kind of motivation. Every practice, it's running through our heads. We talked about it today at practice, and we want to exploit the weaknesses. We don't want to get to that stage and have the same problems resurface. So our weaknesses, every day we're working on fixing those so we don't get back to that same point and fail.
Okay, and then Addie, I know, just to piggyback on that, but you know, some teams will take that and try and turn it into a strength. They might have a calling phrase or something like that. I don't know if you all will use the phrase like remember Harlingen South or remember Austin or anything like that, but what have you guys, talk about your perspective of just the work ethic to put in to make this run again?
Yes, sir. Kind of going off of what Austin said, like we just have that strive and that want to go right back to where we were last year and to come out on top this time because, like she said, like emotions were so high in that moment, and when we fell short, like it was like a stab in the heart to everybody. Like we all knew what it was like to be in that moment, and we all want to come back, and especially for us seniors, like it's our last year, like we want to be in that spot again this year, and we're all just so hungry for it. Like that's all we want. We want to get back there, and all we're going to do is work hard for that moment, and we're going to get there. And I think a lot of us, especially the seniors, we kind of have our little hashtag like unfinished business. Like we went last year, and we kind of did it. This year we're going and we're taking care of it fully. We are not letting anything get in our way. We are not stopping until we get what we came to do. So,
yeah, kind of is not a word in terms of a team accomplishing
Yeah,
anything.
sorry.
No, but you're right about that in terms of just using it as a motivational factor. Okay, individually, of course, we could talk about how well everyone is doing, but individually, just talk about, I'll ask you about how things are going defensively for you, what you've been doing well at the plate so far, and Of course, all three of these ladies over here could have told me the same thing, but they didn't want to come up here. And I'm just kidding and all that stuff. But anyway, just individually, how things have been going for you offensively. What have you seen just at the plate? And then how that's piggybacked on with the rest of the lineup this year.
I think for me, being the leadoff, like I see myself as kind of like the spark for the lineup. Like I got to go out there and get things going. Like whether that's with a little bit of a walk or a base hit or just going out and having like a quality at bat, like Coach Myers talked about, like going up there and showing my dugout as many pitches as I can, or showing them what the pitcher's weakness is, like whether that's a changeup or a curveball, or you know what it is, you know what I mean? Like just kind of going up there and doing what I can to help my teammates out. And I think that's helped me be a little bit more successful this year. It's taken some of the weight off my back. Coach Wilmer's actually talked to us a lot about this year, is the mindset of 16 on 1. Like it's not just me in that box against the pitcher, it's my whole entire dugout against the pitcher. Like it's us versus her. And I think that's really helped me this year, like the energy, and I know my team has my back, so that's helped me be a lot more successful this year.
And then what about for you, Austin?
I think the most important thing is you won't see us give the other pitcher a whole lot. Like every single practice, it's what's our word, and it's going to be discipline. Mm-hmm. I know Coach Myers talks about that because it's so important for us, and that changes our game. Mm-hmm. We reduce our strikeouts, we increase our walks, and that's huge because we put base runners on and we score runners, and that's how we win games. Okay,
so I want to ask you about kind of the elephant in the room here about this 49-game district winning streak. You guys are part of this, a major part of this, and I'm assuming, obviously, you knew about this when the time you all made varsity, or when did you all become aware of this, and how have you all kind of treated it over the years since you all had to kind of deal with this? Of course, this happens a lot at Aledo because football has 127 game district winning streak. But how have you all treated this? I'll start with you on Austin in terms of just knowing that it's out there. And there are games where where teams want to give you their best shot, and then you just know that you're going to be the overwhelming favorite that night. What's that been like to just go through be a part of this streak?
Teams have always wanted to beat us. For me, I'm not even thinking about it when I'm on the field because it's not we need to win to protect our streak. It's we need to win this game, period. Mm-hmm. I'm not thinking about we lose this streak. If we lose, I'm thinking we're not going to lose this game. Mm-hmm. But you hear it, you walk out of the dugout, and we're like, wow, this streak's been going for so long. You hear it from time to time, but that's never on our mind, I don't think. At least for me personally. Every game, it's one by one. We take each game.
Just as a frame of reference, the football streak started in 2007. Were either of you alive when that started, or were you babies at that time?
Babies.
Okay, gotcha on that. So that just shows you how far we have to go with that.
Right.
And so, okay. The silo approach, Addie, just to piggyback off of what Austin said, game to game, not thinking, it'll have its place, that streak will, but it has to be keeping yourself present in every game. Just talk about that.
Yeah, I think taking the game pitch by pitch has really helped our team as a whole. Like we don't worry about a winning streak, or we don't worry about a game as a whole. We worry about taking it pitch by pitch and winning that pitch to be successful in the end. And I think that's really helped us out as a team, or even just scratching a run to win this inning or whatever that may be to help us get to the end of the game to win. And, I think that's really helped us a lot. And honestly, just like the legacy that Aledo provides, like we hold ourselves to such a higher standard. Like whenever we play teams that are not as good, or even just in district, like we don't see it as, oh, we're going to come out and pound this team. Like we say, like, okay, we're going to come out and we're going to win this game because we know we're better. And playing for Aledo, like we have to know there's always a target on our back. Everyone's always going to give us their best shot. Like, so we have to come out and we have to give them our best shot as well. Like we don't lower ourselves to anybody else's standards but our own.
Yeah, it's interesting because I want to play off of that because during this recent streak of 4 straight wins, you all have outscored the opposition 54-0. And again, this is nothing against the rest of the district in 5-5A, but you kind of brought it up a few moments ago about playing to a standard. It's not so much the opponent, but it's about, are we playing to our capabilities the way we should be? Is it throwing to the right cutoff person? Is it taking enough pitches to get on base? Is it advancing runners over? Is it throwing quality pitches? That sort of thing. Can you speak to that? I'll ask you to start with that, Addie, and then I'll come to you on this, Austin.
Yes, sir. I just think, especially in practices, like that's where it starts. We, like Coach Myers said, we go 150% every day, all out, because we know that's where we get better, and that's where we get the most reps. And so I think that just taking that seriously, once we get in a game, it's not hard to do those things, and it's not hard to uphold the standards that our coaches and like as a player we have for each other. We all know like we want to be back at state this year, and if we want to do that, we have to keep upholding these standards, especially when we play like lower level games and stuff like that. Like we have to go out and we have to do what we do, and that's what it's about.
What about for you, Austin?
We don't play games like we're expecting to go out and destroy somebody. Like Addie said, we hold ourselves to a standard. We're going to play every game like we're playing that state championship, so that when we get there, we're not expecting anything. We don't want to assume anything of ourselves. We just go out there and tackle it.
Okay, I want to ask you specifically about your relationship with Taylor, this pitcher-catcher relationship. I was talking with Coach Myers about this a couple weeks ago, about how she emphasized how that relationship is so important, and I talked about the double play combination at second and short as well. But just your relationship with her on a game in and game out basis, what has that been like as far as just understanding her, knowing when she might be this or that, and maybe talking to her, or just maybe talking to her in the dugout when you guys come off the field? Talk about that relationship with her.
It's huge. I know what she's thinking. I know what's working. I know it's not. There's been times where maybe she's thrown a few balls in a row, and Coach Myers will look at me and she'll go, like, call time, like, go calm her. And in my mind, I already know what's going on. So I walk up to her and I say, I know you're good. Let's go get this batter. It's vital. We're talking at practice. We're talking at school. We're talking in games. We have a form of communication that I don't think a lot of people have. And I think that's so crucial. We keep ourselves calm. If there's bases loaded and there's a lot of pressure on this situation, I look at her and she's calm. And immediately I'm calm. We work together like that.
It's kind of like one of those relationships where a friend can look at another friend because they've known each other for so long, and it's I'll meet you at that place where we met last week, and they would just know automatically. Is that is that similar? Is that how you?
Exactly. We just make eye contact across the field, and we're like, I got you.
Okay. So let's just talk a little bit about the calendar flips to April on Tuesday, and that's no fool. That's a bad joke, but anyway. But anyway, this is go time. Are you all getting to the point where, we talked about playing to a standard game in and game out, but it's also too that mentally saying, okay, we know we're going to get into the playoffs and that sort of thing, but it's kind of like, do you push yourself harder, or do you kind of pace yourselves? Are you all in kind of pace yourselves mode until you get into the postseason where it's like more go time? How do you kind of gravitate through that, or navigate rather through that part of the season where you're at now, because the season has a couple more weeks to go? I'll start with you on this, Addie.
Yeah, kind of like you said, like it's a really long season, and we all know that. We all know it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. But I think going back to the taking it one game at a time, it's kind of cliche, but it's true. Like, if we really want to be successful in this super long season that we have, like we have months of preseason, months of scrimmages, and then we start district, which is 2 months long, and then we get into playoffs. Like, taking it one at a time is really crucial, and especially like in the practices leading up, like we have super long weeks. Like, we practice a lot. We practice every single day. And when we're playing, that's another way to prepare for it. I think that we take advantage of every opportunity that we get. And so we kind of pace ourselves through district. Not saying that we don't prepare, obviously, for those games that we play, but we kind of pace ourselves through district. And then as we get into playoffs, we definitely ramp up because the competition we're going to be seeing is much better. We have different practice layouts. Like, it definitely gets a little different once we get to playoffs.
And for you, Austin?
Yeah, we obviously have to pace ourselves because we're taking care of our bodies and we're taking care of our minds, more importantly. We face tougher competition, so we have to prepare ourselves for that. But we're all in. We're all gas, no brakes. And that's just so important with who we're ramping up to face. But we still have to take care of ourselves.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the bye that's coming up on Tuesday for this team. And the coach has talked about kind of just maybe a breather. And it's kind of like she was talking about knowing when to kind of push and when to pull off. I mean, for you guys, even though it sounded like you all have come up with this idea about either it's going to be some sort of fun event or something like that, probably comes at a good time, because you just talked about, Addie, about how difficult the season and how long the season is, and maybe this is a good mental break for it. Is that, I mean, you all want to have fun, but at the same time, it's kind of like we kind of need to just kind of breathe a little bit mentally, that sort of thing. Is that how you see what Tuesday could be like for you guys?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think we definitely see it as just a little bit of a break and a mental kind of relaxer, just because we are like to that point where we're halfway through district. We still have a couple more weeks to go, and then we're like, once it's playoffs, it's go time. Like, so I think tomorrow definitely will be just a little bit of like a more chilled day, take our minds off of it, give our bodies a little bit of a break. But after that, like we all know, I feel like we have a really good, like our team has a really good relationship with having fun. Like we know how to have fun, but we also know how to lock in when it's time. So I think that'll definitely be good.
Coming at a good time, Austin, for that break on Tuesday?
For sure. It's a mental refresh, but once that game ends, we're on to the next game, and that's the real softball game.
Now, you could be playing 3 games next week, too, if Friday gets rained out against Chisholm Trail, at Chisholm Trail. So if you guys wind up playing 3 games in a week, you've done that before, but is there, because you did that with tournaments, but in terms of just going through a 3-game week, what's kind of the plan there if you guys have to adjust to that? I'll start with you on that, Austin.
We know our bodies. We've been playing this sport for a long time. We know what we have to do. We know how to prepare. We know how to recover. So I have no worries about it. We'll go in every game feeling fresh.
All right. To my far left is senior catcher Austin Marriage, and to my immediate left is senior right fielder Addie Perry. Folks, let's hear it for these 2 young ladies. And we want to remind you that this podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and Nye Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And Hiley Mazda. Head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30. Exit Las Vegas Trail and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. Don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family-owned and operated for over 30 years. Next week, we'll have baseball coach Chad Berry. He will return along with a couple of his players, and they will update where things are at with the Bearcats as they pursue the District 5-5A championship. Don't forget the Lady Cats softball team trying to get that winning streak to at least 50 in district play, trying to see if they can keep that scoreless inning streak going too on Friday as well when they travel to Saginaw Chisholm Trail. Maybe Friday, maybe Monday, depending on what the weather looks like there. So the Lady Cats will be continuing to get their work done this week or maybe next week. For my engineer, Brian Torres, and the Hank FM promotion staff, I'm Kevin Lonnquist. Thank you for being with us. We'll talk to you all next week from Boo Rays of New Orleans here in Hudson Oaks for the Aledo Coaches Show podcast. So long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. With the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist. Please like and subscribe to this podcast and tell a friend. You're also welcome to join us every Monday night at 7 for Boo Rays of New Orleans in Hudson Oaks. It's the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1 Hank FM.